Hello, beautiful people. Thanks for your patience. We were having a little tech issues. I'm here with Nico Crisafulli to talk about non-judgmental diet change. I'm excited that everyone's here watching. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to my channel, please. And please give StreamYard permission to use your name if you're watching from my group. Also, let us know where you're joining from, because Nico is 2 or 3 hours behind me, and I'm glad that I got him up this morning. Let's go do this. So anyway, thank you for joining us, Nico. Tell the folks about PlantStand and about you.
Yeah, Marquita, thanks so much for having me on. It's been it's good to see you, and it's been a pleasure to know you for this little while that I have. But yeah, it's nice to be here. Yeah, my name's Nico Crisafulli. I started a venture to help people transition, or else to find a diet that is suitable for their needs, plant-based, or getting to be plant-based, or however it is that they feel comfortable, really. I wanted to do this project because I know that there's a lot of people out there that have been really discovering this new way of eating. I think since the pandemic started, there's been a whole new focus on personal health and well-being. And I also felt that from my core, not just since this sort of new health awareness, but, for a long time. And this has kind of been a calling for me. But starting last year or so, a couple of years ago, I had this idea to do this. And last year, I really kind of put it into motion. But I really wanted to help those people that have been in this sort of transitionary period in their health to find a new way of eating and also of living. And so I decided, sort of created a game plan around it, a business plan, if you will, to help to, formulate this method of bringing plant-based eating and living to people that didn't really have a good path to it, or at least really know what it was about, and to provide more information for it. So I created this platform that brings in coaches like yourself, Marquita, brings in resources, information, just new and viable content that they can sort of discover and learn and rely on to bring, plant-based eating to their life. It's not an easy transition for some people. It's really riddled with a lot of, doubt and uncertainty and misinformation. I think right now we're in the middle of sort of a firestorm of all sorts of voices coming at people, especially that are tuned into this idea around nutrition and around diet. And I wanted to create a post that will sort of reduce the noise and help them find information that is useful, that is clear, that is just less of a noisy place, out there. Because I think, if you do any searches, if you do any research, you'll come into all sorts of, conflicting information and just opinions. And it's hard to really get through to the truth. So PlantStand is a place for that. Basically, it's there to provide coaching, to provide resources, to provide information. There's courses if people want to, launch into this new way of living for themselves. So, in a large nutshell, that's what it is.
Well, that's great. Well, I'm still getting an echo, but that's okay, as long as it doesn't bother you all. So what do you think is the biggest challenge then? I know there's a lot of challenges, and I love that you acknowledge that, because a lot of times I hear, well, it's easy to go plant-based, or it's easy to be vegan, and then we've lost the person because we're not understanding them. What do you hear are the biggest challenges for people?
Yeah, I mean, it's really easy to lose people. That is true. I think the biggest challenge right now is just really understanding what it is and what they have to do in order to be um, plant-based, to not even getting into the vegan diet of it all, but just like um, and there is a difference between plant-based and vegan, I think, in some ways, and we can talk about that. But I think the biggest challenge is really understanding what it is and how they can incorporate that into their life. Just because of the contradicting voices out there, all of the opinions, all of the sort of the pushback around it, that I think is the biggest challenge. If someone says, they come from a family who has a lot of barbecues. Maybe they live in the Midwest, or maybe they live in a traditionally sort of like, uh, you know, omnivore type of family. And they say they've read a lot of literature. They realize that they could be helping, their health. They could be helping the sustainability of the food system, of the environment, by transitioning away from eating meat. And they're going to get a lot of pushback from that, from their community, from their local community, from their friends and family. If they're not in a traditionally sort of like progressive type of area, which is there's a lot of good reinforcement around changing your life for the better, and like removing some of these things that aren't helping. They'll be stonewalled, they'll be made fun of. There's not a lot of resources, a lot of good availability of some of these plant-based products that those of us that live in more progressive areas will find in the local grocery stores, in restaurants. So I think just the overall lifestyle logistics of transitioning to a plant-based diet is the biggest challenge for a lot of people. There's also a mentality leap that will have to occur, I think. You have to really internalize what your end goals are before you're able to commit to them. And that can be a challenge, especially when there's a lot of pushback. There's a lot of like noise and flack coming in from all around. It's hard to really internalize what you're doing. So I think those are the two things. We're talking very practical. Where am I going to get, oat milk, when my local grocery store doesn't carry it? Or where am I going to get, veggie burger or something when I can't find it? Or, if all my friends go out to the restaurant, what do I do if there's no options on the menu? And these are real problems. I mean, they're real, heavy weighted things that could sort of, take away the steam and the fire from your mission, your goal for yourself, and just ready to throw in the towel, say, well, forget it. It's not going to happen. Right. So, there's that. And then there's the more sort of like, woo-woo challenge of elevating yourself, the sort of non-practical parts of it. Like, how am I going to do this for myself? Like, do I have the power? Do I have the energy? Do I have the skill? Do I have the mentality to make these kind of changes, make them stick? That's the other big part of it, I think. So yeah, those are the two big ones, I think, for me.
Yeah, and I can see that because I know that fear of like, what am I going to eat at this restaurant? There's some restaurants that my friends will say, let's go to. And then I think, what am I going to eat? Just some potatoes or a salad. And if it's a really cold day, I don't want to eat a salad. And I went into a restaurant the other night and they said, well, here's some great salads. Well, I don't want to eat a salad all the time. All right. I want to be able to eat plant-based because let me just say this. I became vegan because of the animals, but now that I've seen, learning about plant-based foods and the destruction of the rainforest and destructions of our planet, it just destroys me. I woke up this morning to watch another news cast about terrible drought. I saw drought last night. The Joshua trees were in danger in that national park. And then I woke up this morning to see flooding and all sorts of things every single day. And it's all, I mean, we could do so much, make so much change for our environment. And people don't understand that. That how food is tied to our Mother Earth. I mean, the destruction. We've got so much power on our plates to save Mother Earth. Can you speak about that?
Yeah. I mean, it is true. There's been a lot of studies, I think, in the very recent past, like within this past couple of years, since all of these devastating weather events have been happening. People have really been like, wow, we need to really lock down and figure out how we're going to, change course. And there's been a lot of attention on what animal agriculture has done to the planet, and a lot of really like focused studies around it. And certainly there are outliers to the general trend of data that's been coming in. And I think a lot of people that are, just, all in on meat and carnivore diets will turn to those outliers and say, hey, it's not really, meat production is not really affecting the climate. But if you look to the body of evidence, the wealth of the overwhelming majority of evidence, you'll find that animal agriculture does have a significant impact on climate. And the reason why is the water it takes to feed the animals to, get them onto our plates could be going, towards other things like directly feeding the plants to ourselves, as opposed to, feeding the animals and then to ourselves. The amount of room it takes to have agriculture to feed the animals is far greater than the room it takes to have agriculture to feed the humans. And that's a significant part of the puzzle as well. Just if you take the information and you break it down, you'll find that if we reduce the amount of meat consumption that we are using for ourselves, we can significantly change the amount of resources it takes to feed ourselves. And the amount of resources that we need is only going to grow in the future because population is exponential, right? It's only going to go up. And we're looking at another couple of billion people on the planet in the next 50 years. And that's going to require a significant more amount of resources to feed ourselves. So, we need to take that into account. We need to figure out another sustainable way. And sustainability is really in plants, because plants are quick to grow. They're easy to grow. Most of them don't require that much water to grow as much as we're using. And if we can really lock that down, then I think we have a chance. And the best way to do it is to reduce our meat consumption. I mean, that's just across the board and stop, right? So, let's hope that the movement carries on and people start recognizing this. I think it's growing. There's a growing interest in this alternative method for feeding our planet right now. And as the youth will say, we need to embrace this in order for us to survive. So I think there is a bright spot. We've gotten some traction around it. There's a lot of, focus, a lot of attention that's been placed on this new way of eating and living. And I'm hopeful. Honestly, I am hopeful. There's going to be pushback, but I think that we're moving in the right direction for sure.
I think we are too, but I see it in the grocery stores. I just see the areas of plant-based foods are expanded, and I'm finding things easier. So yes, there's a lot of hope. And when you think about what you were saying is, I mean, when you think about the hamburger, it takes 600 something gallons of water for one hamburger. And oh my gosh, that's incredible. I mean, that's shocking. It's shocking. And how, I mean, we have the resources that we need. Mother Earth has given them to us, and we're destroying them with the pesticides. I don't even know which movie I watched recently, but it was really sad to see. I haven't seen any video of the fishing, but where they were standing there in the hazmat suits and just putting all those chemicals into the water, where the fish are, and then all the chemicals are falling to the bottom. And it's, oh my gosh, it's so scary the way that, I mean, who gave us the right to do this to this beautiful planet? I mean, I don't know where we got off track so much. I mean, when did we get off track? When was it? Because it wasn't always like this. I mean, it wasn't when I grew up, we didn't have to buy organic and now look what's happening. We have to pay more for organic. It's very difficult. I mean, we're not getting the substances that the meat and dairy are, and I don't know what it's going to take to shift this. I mean, thank God I mean, we're getting a lot of people coming together. I mean, we're going to have to keep coming together and educating. And well, people are on a journey. Someone might be listening to this for the first time and say, "Wait a minute, let me go check this out." You never know, right? So
yeah. No, I think it definitely falls down to awareness and education. The more there is of that, the more awareness, and the more there is a broadcast about what's actually happening, the more aware people become. Of course, there's going to be pushback. There's going to be resistance to it because people, honestly, they don't want to give it up. They don't want to give up the drive-through. It's too easy. It's too cheap. It's a part of their life, and habits die hard, especially if you're not really willing to give them up. So, but as you get a cultural shift, I think that some of this will clear up because people don't want to be left behind. I mean, if your whole family, your whole set of friends is doing something, which is, making efforts to clean up their diet, to eat less meat, to go plant-based, potentially to go full vegan, that's going to have an effect. And that is, it's a self-perpetuating thing. Once you get momentum, it's hard to stop. And especially if it gets into the cultural fabric, then suddenly you have people jumping on for no other reason because they don't want to be left behind. And that's an important thing. So that's the reason why I'm hopeful, because this movement has grown a lot. I mean, it's still not to a critical mass. It sounds like a negative term, but the critical mass is once you reach a threshold, it's hard, you can't stop it. It becomes unstoppable force. And we haven't reached that yet. But as we start to understand what whole food plant-based is really doing for us, then and doing for the environment, then we'll start to pick it up, and you'll see the unstoppableness of it, I think. So maybe we're 10 years away from that, which is still a really long time especially when things are so dire. But we've seen a huge amount of new attention placed on this. It's because it's seeped into the mainstream, which is a really important thing. Whereas vegans were kind of sidelined 10 years ago. They're like these crazy fanatics who are like not eating pizza and stuff like that. It's hard for them to break in. But ever since this alternative meat revolution has come around, there's been a lot of attention. Some of it bad, but its attention is a good thing because it gets people listening. So
yeah. I'm looking at the comments, and thanks for watching, Lucy. I think when she was saying, "Oh my God," she might have been saying that about the hamburger, or who knows. I mean, the destruction of the rainforest is horrendous by the meat. Clearing all that land, and I think about how, well, let me say hi to Julius. Thanks for watching also. He's working so hard in Africa. But clearing that land in the rainforests for meat production, for the beef, and we can't get that back. And I think about articles and articles that I've read about all the ailments for not, for diseases are in the rainforest. All the natural all the natural cures for the ailments. And all the cures are there in the rainforest. And we're taking that out. We're just plowing it down for meat. And then again, if we, I can't even, I can't even think straight because it makes me so upset, right? I mean, we can't get that back. And here we are. The doctors they only have 20 hours, if that, of education about eating and what am I trying to say? Of nutrition, if that. So when you go to the doctor, they're not going to talk about nutrition because they haven't studied it. So of course their job is to give pills, and then they'll say, just take these pills for the rest of your life. And then some people are just very depressed, and that's what they assume, that the doctor knows. But you can turn it around. I think it was, I don't remember, was it Dr. Clapper that said 85% of these heart disease, obesity, all these things, all these big illnesses can be prevented by the whole food, plant-based diet. And here we are. I mean, we are so brainwashed and we're so kept in the dark, not understanding that. I mean, think about it. These animals are sick. I mean, they're physically sick. They don't see sun. The only time they'll see sun is when they're on the way to the slaughterhouse, and then they're living in the excrement. And that's what we're putting in our bodies, and we're expecting to be well. And they'll say, oh, well, these are like the chickens are, what is it called when they're living free range. But I mean, that's also an illusion. That's another gimmick. Free range outside. They only keep, I mean, they'll, what are the standards? They'll be outside for 15 minutes and then you can put it on your thing. I don't know what that is, but there's some gimmick like that. And yeah, you might be outside, but you might be jammed in so close with other chickens. And so, I mean, how is this going to give our bodies the nutrients we need when we are consuming animals that are just living from the moment they're born, suffering till the moment they pass away in terrible, I mean, inhumane, horrendous conditions, mutilations, and awful, awful, awful things. And how can we be in good health when we're eating that kind of diet? So that was my rant. Because
Yeah.
I think I did think I remember the name of that thing. Recent documentary was, I think it was called Eating Yourself Alive, or eating something like that, eating yourself from the inside out, or eating yourself alive. I think is what it was, something like that. But it was another powerful one. Now there's so many, which is the good thing. There's so many documentaries. And Lucy saying yes, it was the shock.
People are making documentaries because they can. It's like, it's easy fodder for them. It's like, well, it's all the evidence is there. We need to gather together and put it in a nice package for people to be able to digest and understand what's actually going on. And it is scary. I mean, people don't want to face the reckoning of it all, and I just heard someone yesterday saying, yeah, I don't want to know what happens to the chicken. I just want to eat it. And it's like, that is a what do they call a cognitive dissonance right there. It's like, maybe you should think about it. Don't be, and they said, ignorance is bliss, which actually not to the chicken, right? It's like, that's not quite blissful, but yeah, I think it just takes time, for people to understand what's actually happening, what they need to do. But yeah, I mean, that's the reason why I created PlantStand, to help with this, and I needed to do my part, really. Sitting by and watching stuff happen was not okay for me. I needed to actively spend my time doing something to help this movement, because it is a movement, really. As it's a dynamic thing where it's changing every day, and things are happening, and I wanted to be a part of that. And my plant-based vegan journey has been interesting, I think. I started out with, I was diagnosed about 20 years ago with MS. And my MS, it was a relatively mild case of it. I could still have a lot of, lifestyle and, work that I could do. But like 6 years ago or so, I found out that the vegan and non-inflammatory diet is really useful for helping the relapses, reducing the amount of relapses that happen in an MS condition. And non-inflammatory foods are basically really right across the board with a plant-based diet. I mean, this is a really important part of healing and health, is keeping your inflammation down. And I tried, I went ahead and tried it once. I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to do this to see if I can help my condition. And I failed miserably. Like, I lasted about 3 weeks, and I got really mad, actually. Like, the doctor, I went to integrative medicine doctor, and we were talking about, you mentioned doctors before, how Western medicine has kind of failed us because they're not telling us, the truth about this stuff. Nutrition is really all you need to know for health. When it comes down to it, what you put in your body is going to be what you need to be healthy. And you can't put garbage in and be healthy. But anyway, so I went to an integrative physician, and they said, this is what you need to do. Try to adhere to this diet, which was mostly plant-based, and you see what happens to your MS condition. And I did that, and I got mad because of all the things that were not listed on the diet, like all these things that I loved, like cheese and, there was, all sorts of different varieties of meat on there. The diet did actually say that I could eat red meat, but get rid of all the rest of the meat. This was like 6 or 7 years ago. And, there were other things on there that I couldn't drink, couldn't eat and take, like coffee and alcohol and various other products. And I was angry, I did it kind of begrudgingly, and was like, fine, if I have to do this, I'll try it. And that is not a way to do anything. You can't enter into a lifestyle altering mission with an anger complex around it. It's just not going to work. You're going to fail. You're going to be miserable, and it's going to have the opposite effect. So I fell off the bandwagon, and I went back to my regular ways. And then I met someone a year later, a romantic partner, who had this really great person that she was seeing, a doctor. It was another integrative medicine physician, but who I really connected with and I liked. And she had an approach, that was uplifting. She's like, be a friend to yourself, have self-compassion, this is the first part of any habit change. You have to love what you're doing and love yourself for it. And even if you don't do it well, you have to be okay with that. I was not okay with that the first time around. I was like, I can't believe I can't do this. I'm such a jerk. I'm such an idiot. Why isn't this easier? I should be able to do it. And all of these negative reinforcements that were preventing me from really doing what I needed to do. And I would just be in a state of like tension. But this other person, this other doctor, was revolutionary for me, because she said, you know what, give yourself a break, just be good with yourself and let it go. Let all of those things that you think you're doing wrong go, because you're not. You're actually doing well. You're doing great. And I love that. I mean, it was just such a refreshing change. You don't have to strong arm things. I think that's part of like the Western culture of getting things done. You have to like be so forceful, like hit your to-do list with like both your fists, and make sure that you're you're knocking it out of the park every day. And it's not healthy because we're not machines. We can't do it that way. So I took this new approach, and there were some days where I couldn't do it. And I said, those days that I needed to fall back on some comforts, I said, you know what, that's all right. I'm going to give myself today, but I set the intention that I would come back around, and the next day, and I did. And so I did it for a couple of weeks, and I went full vegan, and a couple of weeks turned into a couple of months, and I integrated meditation in with the diet. I integrated exercise, self-care, and to me, these are all parts of this puzzle. You can't think that your one-legged stool of giving up meat and dairy is going to support yourself on the stool. It's just not gonna work. You're going to fall over. What you need to do, in my opinion, is that you need to support yourself with these other parts of lifestyle change. Like, let's get rid of the toxic parts of our life. If the toxic parts of our life is not hanging out with that guy or that woman who sits around and plays video games all day and cusses at the TV and makes you feel bad about what you're doing, you can get rid of that part of your life. You say, thank you. I really appreciated our friendship, but I think it's time that I move on because, I need to do this stuff. And they'll be mad, but it doesn't matter. It's about you. It's about your journey. And that's important. And that's what drove me on. I've been a vegan for 5.5 years now. And it's been really empowering to me. And I think the best part about it is that I have the ability to control myself, control my world. And in a world where you have very little control over things, having control over your own body is really empowering. I don't let any of this messaging affect me. And I've developed this tool to stand fast against these like marketing campaigns and people pushing things on me. And that's a confidence that you don't get very much in life, it seems to me. Like falling prey to like a McDonald's Big Mac ad. Some people are like, I need that Big Mac on TV, and now I have to go get one. But for me, I'm like, I don't need that. I've risen above it entirely. And that's a great feeling. So that's really been one of the biggest benefits for me for the vegan and plant-based life, is that I have full autonomy over myself. And that's a great feeling. So I'm not sure how I got to that point. But here we are.
Well, I was about to ask you about that. So how is the MS now? And tell me what the MS Society or suggests. I know the American Cancer Society on the webpage. It'll start with eating meat. Can you speak on that?
Yeah, they have fully not embraced it, which is sad to me. I actually, my doctor's appointment several months ago, they're like, you know what? Great. I'm glad you're eating a vegan diet. Good for you. But, you still need to take medicine in order to prevent yourself from getting relapses. There's been no consensus on whether that really helps MS. And, we can't really advocate for a diet as being part, and it's just so frustrating. I was just like, I left and I'm like, you can do this, it's not, just say, but, they have, I think that there's, the overall environment around Western medicine is not going to allow for homeopathic avenues of care. It's just, they're too entrenched with the pharmaceutical industry and like all this other stuff. And don't even know. I mean, it's a little beyond me, but I do know that they're not embracing homeopathic medicine, and maybe they're worried for their job or something because it's really effective. But and I'm not saying that pharmaceuticals don't help. I mean, only get your medicine if it's going to help you. I'm just saying that diet is a really important part of personal health. And if you're eating well and you're giving your body the nutrients and removing the things that are preventing health, then you need to do that. The MS diagnosis, the doctor that I have, he's a good doctor and he knows what he's talking about. But he is kind of pushing a medication on me that I'm not entirely comfortable with. And I've resisted. Fortunately for me, my MS has been controlled and not entirely destructive to my body, which some people can't say that, but I honestly believe that the vegan diet has helped that immensely. Like I feel good. I feel like my body is working like it should. It has the right nutrients, the right materials, for it to function, and I don't put junk in it. So I think that's important. But yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed with the traditional Western approach to these sort of critical illnesses and conditions that people have, because I think diet is a huge part of it. I mean, that's just the bottom line, and I hope that someday traditional Western medicine will embrace nutrition as being part of the path to healing. So
yes. Well, I'm trying not to have it. But anyway, I really love What the Health and Game Changers. What video would you recommend for someone that's starting out on this process? What maybe movies, documentaries, or books?
Yeah, What the Health is a great one. That really did a lot for me. Game Changers is I think by Cameron. What's his name? The director, the guy that did Avatar. He's vegan. His wife has a program that she has an organization that is trying to help people go plant-based as well. So he's definitely on it. So Game Changers is a good one. Some people will resist that because it's like Hollywood money, and it's but it has a lot of great information, and it can turn you vegan. I mean, it really can. Just the evidence and how motivating it is. But for me, it was What the Health. They document in that movie several people who went from having really heavily medicated conditions to like not needing medicine for their conditions. I think the problem is once you start taking medicine, like pharmaceutical medicine, you need more medicine to combat some of the side effects from the medicine you started taking. And it just snowballs, and suddenly you're taking like 12 pills in the morning. Anyway, What the Health is great. It outlines a lot of the benefits of a plant-based diet on your health. And it also showcases what the meat industry is doing to the meat that people are putting in their bodies as well. It's filled with, a lot of harmful products, like steroids and, various enzymes and whatever you want to call them. But also I think that there's great books out there, like Michael Pollan has a book, and I'm blanking on the name of it right now, but if it's basically his first book that came out talking about the choice, the meat eater's dilemma, I think is what it was, something like that, where that people have a choice around eating meat and what kind of meat they want to eat and what the meat is actually putting to them. So I highly recommend Michael Pollan's work entirely to really open up your eyes around, what we can do with regards to our diet. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm just trying to think of some other resources. Just following vegan Instagram accounts. I mean, there's so many good ones these days out there that are really motivating and energizing. There's so many resources that really pull you in and get you excited about it. If that's something that you need in order to keep the ball rolling, then definitely just tune in, because the community is so great. I mean, they're energized, they're excited, they look good, they feel good. I mean, it's such a great place to be for just, and it's a new thing, it's really coming into its own right now. There's a lot of fresh eyes. There's a lot of new people in the community that are adding, what they need to add. And it's a lot of fun, I think, really to be involved in this right now. So
I think you're right. And I was thinking, just in Mexico, how, to go back to something we talked about, but how they're running out of water, and that's hitting now. And it forced me to think with that echo. But another reason that people are plant-based and to really go against this factory farming at big is the people that are working in the slaughterhouses. I mean, they're coming out with trauma. I mean, immense trauma, and their working conditions are so horrible. When I read Fast Food Nation years ago, and hearing about those workers that are going, they have to go so fast, and they're getting cut, and then they don't help them out. Those big businesses, they're going home with infections. A lot of them are people here that are, without papers, really trying to do what they can for their families. And it's just such horrible working conditions that a lot of times we get mad at those people and we hate them. But to think about it from a different way, they're really suffering. Oh yeah, that's great. The reverb when I speak is awful. So I'm going to let you speak. Go ahead. You finish the rest of the talk.
Yeah, I can hear some of it. I'm sorry that that's happening. I know that must be frustrating for you, but
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, the industry is in poor shape. When you see that massive COVID outbreak that happened a couple of years ago in the meat packing plant up in Wisconsin or something in the north, the central north. Not to say that it happened because it was a meat packing plant, but I think the conditions are really poor in a lot of these places. And there's a lot of secrecy around what actually goes down in some of these places to deliver us the meat that is, really kind of like the demand, to satiate the demand for it. It's hard, and the animals are suffering. I mean, that's just the bottom line. They are here for us, to do whatever we want with them. I mean, that's the way that we look at it. And, they have their own life. They have their own entity, their own consciousness that is completely disregarded when it comes to our appetite for it. So I don't know. I mean, you can look at it that way, and you can really, I mean, it definitely makes you sad to think about how, detrimental it is to the health of, just the energetic health of the planet when we're sort of like just utilizing an entire set of species to maintain another species existence. Somehow that doesn't seem right. It seems kind of like off in the grand order of things. I mean, certainly there's a food chain. If you can argue that, the gazelle population is being oppressed by the lion population or whatever, but I think never in history has one species really kind of had such a detrimental effect on all the other species. And, for me, I like to think that, doing what I'm doing and promoting plant-based living and, trying to reduce the amount of meat consumption that there is, it allows me to feel okay about what's going on, at least not so bad, like I'm not participating in that. I could just remove that from my thought process. I know that it happens and I'm sorry that it happens and it's sad, but at least I'm not participating in it. And that to me is something that gives me a lot of comfort, that's one less thing that I need to worry about, like not having that burden of guilt. And, I think a lot of people are really starting to come to grips with that. This meat eater's guilt thing has sort of resonated. I heard that term not too long ago, and it's a real thing, and I think that those people that I heard talking about the chickens yesterday, and how ignorance is bliss around it. They don't want to know what happens to the chicken. They just want to eat it. Have meat eater's guilt. I mean, that's just part of what that is. It's like, I feel guilty. Don't tell me about it. Don't make me think about it. I just want the meat, and that's going to come back. There's going to be a reckoning with that. And, some people will be able to resist the guilt for a long time, if not their whole life. It's like, forget it. I don't care. I'm just selfish that way. And I'm just going to do what I want. But I think that a lot of people will come to terms with that in the future in some way or another, and will rethink the idea of what is on their plates every day. It's like, well, you can't just think magically and say this steak or this hamburger got here through without any harm to anything else, to the planet, to these other animals. Eventually you're going to realize like this actually happened, and I need to acknowledge it if nothing else. And if everything else, then just to remove that altogether from my life, which is, I think, a motivating factor, at least for me, and for I hope a lot of people, to not have to carry that burden around. So I think like plant-based living for me has done a couple of things. It's given me confidence that I can make choices and I can stand by my decisions and feel confident and strong and empowered around the things that I do. It's also removed the burden of guilt around harming other creatures, and it's allowed me to feel entirely invigorated in my health. And I think you ask any vegan or any plant-based eater how they feel with regards to their health, and they'll say tremendous. I mean, there are some people that it doesn't work for, and I'm going to give definite credit and acknowledge those people where it's not an immediate like solve for all of their conditions. By and large, the majority of people tend to take it well. Their health, their cholesterol goes down, they immediately lose weight, they get energized, their skin clears up. And there's a lot of things that are the benefits of this. So there's that, there's that other leg to stand on. And suddenly you have a stool that is entirely supported by this diet that you live by, it's just like, how awesome is that? And it's a really good motivating factor for me, for a living, for my business. And and for just my self-satisfaction in life, just makes me feel good overall. And I think that that's what it is. We're talking about compassion. Like I want to make people about their choice, and for PlantStand, the motivating factor, the underlying sort of foundation of it all is to have people embrace this without shame and without guilt and with positive reinforcement, because negativity does nothing for your for the end result. I mean, it doesn't. It will prevent success if in any endeavor. Ultimately it will come back to you, because you bring in a negative condition, you will get a negative result. I mean, that's just gonna happen. It's one of the laws of the universe. So I try to keep it uplifting. Don't get involved in this like what are you doing? I can't believe you're participating in harming the animals. And that's what I was talking about before, is if I just remove myself from that cycle, I don't have to worry about it because I'm not participating. And if I help people also embrace the plant-based diet, I am doing my share to prevent them from participating in it too. So I've solved that problem for myself. So I don't need to worry about shaming for eating meat. That's not part of my system. So I'm trying to help people move into this diet with love, with compassion, with acceptance, and if they can't entirely remove meat from their life, that's okay. I understand. Absolutely. Some people have good reasons for eating meat. If they say that I want to eat less meat, I'll be like, yes, thank you. I love you. Let's do this. If they still need to, I understand that too. So, I think that that's something that's lost in some of the vegan community. They say that either you are with us or you're against us. Either you eat meat or you don't, and don't try to toe the line. But that's not going to work for everyone. We need to have this be a movement that takes up everyone, as many people as possible. And when you're saying that if you eat a little bit of meat, you're not part of us, then you've alienated those people. So yeah, that's where the compassionate part of it is for me. Yeah, and I think that people kind of resonate with that too. Yeah.
Let me try to see.
Still not working?
No, why don't you tell us about you and how they can find, PlantStand, and any final things to wrap this up, and I'll be quiet. And thank you so much, everybody, for watching.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you too. So PlantStand app is the URL. PlantStand is the name of the website, and I am on Instagram at PlantStand app. I have a Facebook page as well, but I don't really sort of use Facebook that much. I'm not a huge fan of the company, but although I do Instagram, so I'm a little bit hypocritical there. I don't know. Anyway, I'm on LinkedIn as well, and I don't have a YouTube channel, but maybe someday. But definitely visit the website and see, because we have some offerings. We have a lot of offerings, and they're growing every day. I've been online for about 6 months, and there's been a pretty good response to it during that time. We have about 15 creators, and the creators are people like yourself, Marisa, that's provide coaching, that provide literature, that provide podcasts, that provide information, recipes, and writing. And I encourage people to go and check it out and see who on there might be able to help them. Basically, it's what I do is I curate people that are there to help other people. And everyone I've spoken with everyone, all of the creators, and I've had, I have relationships with every one of them. So I know that they're all vetted, and they're all trusted you know, in their field. So you can rely on that. And, you know, it's PlantStand is there to find the resources that they need. You know, if you need to have a nutritionist in your corner, you can find that on PlantStand. If you want to find some better information about how to go vegan or go plant-based or just eat less meat, if that's the way you want, then that's there too. I also have a course that I created. It's a 5-week, currently it's an email course, but it is sort of a boot camp. It's called Plant-Based Camp. And Plant-Based Camp is there to help you get to the top of the mountain. And the mountain is to find that goal of delivering a diet to you that works for you. So Plant-Based Camp, I have it on discount right now. I think it's $29 for a 5-week course. But keep an eye out because I do put it for free every once in a while, just to get some more adoption on it. So check back and see when it goes for free again. But it's a pretty fun course. I created myself. It has a bunch of challenges in it. And the challenges are, you know, watch What the Health. And the challenge is to make a vegan breakfast, and the challenge is to, you know, go out for a walk this afternoon, you know, and the challenge is, so there's lots of fun little challenges in the course. So I encourage people to check that out and see if that's something they want to do as well. But yeah, it's all there.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. I'm sorry about the technological hiccup on your end, but thank you for letting me talk. I like to talk. Apparently, I can get through an hour.
Thanks everybody for watching.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Take care. It's been a pleasure.